Prime Minister's questions.
Member for Oropouche West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In light of the discrepancies contained in the Auditor General's report for 2020 relating to the COVID-19 grants, could the Prime Minister indicate whether an urgent investigation will be undertaken?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, is this mic on? Madam Speaker, is this mic on? At the last sitting, Madam Speaker, of the House, I did seek your permission to be absent, and that permission was granted. And I gave the undertaking to my colleagues that those questions would have been answered today. I just want to remind the House that today on the order paper is not Prime Minister's question time, and therefore the new questions attached to the order paper today would not, I would answer them to the best of my ability, but they do not form part of the Prime Minister's question time on notice, because I only just received them. Madam Speaker, answer to question number one.
Speaker, point of order, I just seek clarification of what the Prime Minister just said, because we have a list of Prime Minister's questions approved here. We have an order paper, so I'm a bit confused.
Well, I don't know that a point of order is clarification. I think the Prime Minister said what he had to say. I don't know that there's anything to be clarified under that.
Madam Speaker, we have 10 Prime Minister's questions on the order paper here today. Is it that these 10 questions are not being answered by the Prime Minister?
Prime Minister, please.
Speaker, I'm sure that English is still the language of the Parliament, so I proceed.
So, Madam Speaker, I seek clarification again, please. What questions are the Prime Minister answering today?
Can we proceed? Can we proceed?
Yes, ma'am.
We have half an hour for the questions to be answered. So the more time we take up here, the less likelihood we're going to get through the questions.
Proceed and not answer the questions approved by the chair.
May we proceed and we will see what unfolds? I haven't heard what you all have heard. I really haven't heard that. Prime Minister, is the member for Oropouche West vacating the question or not?
Question stands, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
With respect to the question on the Auditor General's report, Madam Speaker, the Auditor General does an ongoing exercise in reviewing government's operations, and reports on the ongoing COVID-19 grants are treated in the normal way, and at this time there is no immediate involvement of an urgent investigation. However, all ministries and departments to which reference is made by the Auditor General requiring adjustments or improvements in the operations are underway. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Member for Oropouche West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In light of the Prime Minister's indication that there will be no such urgent investigation, can the Prime Minister indicate whether he is comforted in the knowledge that 713 persons used the same bank account number in their application and will not be held, no one will be held accountable for this?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I did not say that, and therefore I will not respond to that.
Member for Oropouche West.
Madam Speaker, in the Prime Minister's initial presentation, the Prime Minister said that no urgent investigation will be undertaken at this point. We have an indication, Madam Speaker, and I would like the Prime Minister to answer clearly whether any investigation will be done on the fact that 2,672 persons received both income support grant and food support grant for a total of $8.115 million, and no one will be held accountable for this breach.
Madam Speaker, what I did say is that references made by the Auditor General requiring departmental intervention, those references will require adjustments by the relevant department, and those adjustments are ongoing.
Madam Speaker, my question is very clear. Will an investigation be undertaken? Allow me, please. Will an investigation be undertaken to hold someone responsible for the fact that $8.115 million has been inappropriately spent when 7,000 applicants were not able to get a salary relief grant?
Madam Speaker, in the ongoing work of the departments concerned and the various ministries and departments, to the extent that those matters are identifiable and persons are to be held accountable, they will be held accountable with or without the fulminations of my colleague from wherever he's from.
Member for Oropouche West.
Could the Prime Minister indicate to the House what percentage of value in money terms of the recently signed loan agreement between China and Trinidad and Tobago is being used for the procurement of the Sinopharm vaccine?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, to date, all the Sinopharm vaccines procured by the government of Trinidad and Tobago have been paid for using general revenues from the Consolidated Fund. The proposed loan from the China Development Bank may be used for future purchases of Sinopharm vaccines depending on the timing of such purchases.
Member for Oropouche West.
Thank you, Madam. Honourable Prime Minister, is this in conflict with the presentation by the Honourable Minister of Finance on a previous occasion when he indicated that a percentage of the loan will be used for the procurement of vaccines?
It's not. And just to make sure that you don't confuse the public, at the time when the minister spoke, we had payments to make. We got the first set of vaccines before the loan finalization was done, so we paid for it from our consolidated fund, and we continue so to do. And the minister was very, very clear. He pointed out that it was not a condition of the loan to buy vaccines. It was a condition of the loan that a certain small percentage of the loan to be used on Chinese products of whatever Trinidad and Tobago choose. So if we don't spend it on vaccine purchase, we can spend it on something else. So don't mislead the public.
Member for Oropouche West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Can the Honourable Prime Minister then indicate what is the amount of money that has been spent on purchasing from the Consolidated Fund in purchasing these Sinopharm vaccines from China?
If the appropriate notice is given, I'll be able to give you the exact figure down to the last cent.
Member for Couva South.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Prime Minister, given the announcement by the Minister of Finance that a contributory pension plan for daily paid workers in the public service will take effect in 2020, could the Prime Minister inform this House why this said plan has not come into effect?
Madam Speaker, this is a very, I should say, ticklish matter. It also requires a lot of work. The work is continuing. The expectation was that the work would have been concluded during this period so that it can be implemented. However, there have been some elements of delays because, as you would expect, that the public systems have not been functioning in the way they would have been functioning normally, and the meeting and interacting with people as required here. So there's still some work to be done, Madam Speaker, and as soon as that is completed, we will proceed to do this.
Member for Couva South.
Prime Minister, could you tell us, given the information at your disposal, when the ticklish work will be completed to facilitate this exercise?
Prime Minister.
As soon as the exercise is complete and the government is satisfied that government is ready and that the workers are ready, we will put this into operation.
Member for Cuba South.
Prime Minister, given the fact that a number of daily rated employees have retired since this announcement was made, could you tell this House if the said plan will be made retroactive based on the announcement of the Minister of Finance on the 7th of October 2019?
Authority of the Cabinet to make that commitment to you, and therefore I will not make it.
Member for Faizabad.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Prime Minister, in view of a recent report from the U.S. White House that, and I quote, Haiti and other CARICOM countries will in part benefit from a 14 million vaccine allocation as part of President Biden's pledge to share vaccines, could the Prime Minister indicate how many of these vaccines Trinidad and Tobago is expected to receive?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, as the government has said on a number of occasions, we have to await the outcome of the allocation process, which is a matter for the United States government. Statements made by the government of the United States are not under our control, and as I speak now, we are still awaiting the allocation of the United States government. We've said that on more than one occasion, so the question does not change that.
Member for Faizabad.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Prime Minister. In light of that response, and in light of an announcement by the Mexican Foreign Minister yesterday, can the Prime Minister indicate how many vaccines are expected via this donation?
Prime Minister is not here.
Oh, sorry. In light of an announcement by the Mexican Foreign Minister yesterday, can the Prime Minister indicate how many vaccines are expected via this donation?
Madam Speaker, we await the specificity. We await the announcement by the relevant authorities who are making those announcements. They have not been made, and therefore the member knows I cannot tell him that.
Member for Faizabad.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Again, in relation to the issue of vaccines and the current shortage that we experience in, Prime Minister, can you provide at this time any update at all on the status of the vaccine supplies through the African Medical Supplies Platform?
Madam Speaker, with respect to the last part of that question, I can comfort the member by telling him that with respect to our expectation of vaccines from sources, governments outside in bilateral arrangements, our contacts and our discussions are continuing, they are progressing, and that is the most I can say at this time. With respect to the vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson vaccines that are due from the African Medical Supply Platform, nothing has changed since the government's last statement that we expect our first delivery towards the end of August. And of course, we have to rely on the delivery of those vaccines from the African Vaccine Acquisition Trust, and therefore, until they tell us when and how much we will get at that time, I cannot say more to the member at this time.
Member for Caroni Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, member for Caroni Central had a sudden emergency. Can I ask his question? Thank you. Prime Minister, on behalf of the member for Caroni Central, question number 5. Given the recent reports that the government is committed to locating a private operator to partner with the Port of Port of Spain to divest its operation, could the Prime Minister provide the House with a status brief on this project?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, in October of 2020, a committee was established to consider the arrangements for privatization of the Port of Port of Spain. The committee organized itself into 5 subcommittees to review the organizational structure of the port, a strength and weakness analysis of the Port of Trinidad and Tobago, review top-performing ports, benchmarking public-private partnerships, and a roadmap design. Work had continued on that, Madam Speaker, and widespread stakeholder consultations have gone on with the Port Authority, Customs and Excise Division of the Ministry of Finance, the Immigration Division of the Ministry of National Security, the Seamen and Waterfront Workers Trade Union, the Trinidad and Tobago Pilots Association, the Trinidad and Tobago Haulers Association, Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Trinidad and Tobago Bureau of Standards, Customs Clerk and Customs Brokers Association, the shipping lines, all. And in addition, Madam Speaker, the committee has been working with presentations from the Inter-American Development Bank, the European Business Chamber of Trinidad and Tobago, the Andean Bank, and Madam Speaker, these works have continued. They are close to completion, and very soon the port has already been authorized to proceed to invite interested parties sometime in the not too distant future. But the work has been considerably advanced.
Point of order.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just a follow-up question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, there was a memo issued by the port chairman yesterday to the employees talking about a transition team to look at the privatization of the port. The question would be, is that team already been formed, and who are the private partners who would be on that transition team?
I could not answer that at this time, Madam Speaker, but if the member poses the question to the relevant minister, he would be satisfied by the answer he will get.
Member for Naparima.
Madam Chair, to the Prime Minister, given the government's policy on the vaccination of elderly persons in senior citizens' homes, could the Prime Minister confirm whether the J.C. MacDonald Home for the Aged and other such homes have to date received COVID-19 vaccines?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the Ministry of Health's policy with respect to the vaccination exercise specific for homes for the aged is that vaccines are being provided and administered by the regional health authorities. The Ministry of Health is dealing with the Association of Homes for the Aged, and J.C. MacDonald Home for the Aged is not a member of that association. The Ministry of Health will request that the appropriate RHA reach out to the J.C. MacDonald Home.
Member for Naparima.
Mr. Prime Minister, I spoke to the home, and up to this hour ago, they have not received vaccines. And Prime Minister, given the optics of the elderly lining up for vaccines, and statements by the Minister of Finance that the elderly are a burden on the pension plan, do you not think there's time for you to adjust your policies towards the elderly?
Madam Speaker, the fact that the member for Naparima has said that, there's a good chance that it is not true. And secondly, Madam Speaker, I have not heard the minister or any minister of this government saying that the elderly is a burden on any part of this government or this country. Because if that was true, Madam Speaker, the Parliament will not pay the member for Naparima.
Member for Naparima.
Thank you. Could the Prime Minister justify the government's continued use of its lobbyists in the United States, that's Group DC, given that to date they have failed in our desire to obtain vaccines from that country?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, the premise of the question is wrong and misdirected, and therefore the outcome has to be wrong. The lobbyist is doing considerable valuable work for the people of Trinidad and Tobago, has allowed us to be able to reach and to speak and to maintain intergovernmental contacts at the highest level in the United States, and therefore the government is very satisfied with the work of the lobbyists working alongside our mission in Washington.
Member for Naparima.
Prime Minister, the lobbyists for Israel, Canada, and Mexico were able to obtain millions of doses. All we have been able to obtain is meetings with heads of the congressional...
Member for Naparima. Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, is that the last person who should be talking about our lobbyists anywhere is this member of parliament who disgraced this country by selling out the country for a plate of food. This member of parliament sold out this country for a plate of food when he met with racist Marine Le Pen in Washington, D.C. So don't come here and talk about nobody.
Speaker, 48. Madam Speaker.
Should have met with Marine Le Pen in New York when nobody for a plate of food.
Member, you have another question? Okay. Member for Naparima.
The Prime Minister state the status of the Patriotic Energies and Technologies proposal to acquire the Petrotrin refinery, given that its president indicated on Sunday that a new proposal was submitted.
Minister.
Madam Speaker, the status of Patriotic's technical proposal referring to the last invitation has been made quite clear to the country that the proposal was found to be unacceptable and the government did not accept it, and that issue was closed then and there. To the extent that the union has another proposal to put in as we go out for in an invitation that is due to go out in a matter of a day or two, that proposal is not before the cabinet at this time because the invitation has not yet gone out. But I can tell you, Madam Speaker, an invitation is due to go out in the next few days.
Which is?
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, could you indicate how many times this government intends to reject Patriotic Energies and Technologies proposals?
Madam Speaker, the government does not write the proposals. The government simply has to look after the public interest, and we take decisions on a case-by-case and a time-by-time basis.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up question to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, you just mentioned in a couple of days a new RF, request for proposal, will go out. Would you allow, your government allow that Patriotic to resubmit a new bid in that time?
We have no control over Patriotic or any other interested party, so I don't know why the verb of allowing is being used. That is meant to mislead. We have no control over what Patriotic does. We put out an invitation there, and by its very nature, it's open to every interested party. So if Patriotic is interested to submit again, then they're free to do so.
Member for Naparima.
Thank you. Is the Prime Minister prepared to conduct an independent commission of inquiry into his government's management of the COVID-19 pandemic?
Madam Speaker, I am sure that at the end of the day, if the opposition continue doing what they're doing now, an inquiry would be required. But in the meantime, the government will not be distracted by demands of that nature, which is meant to distract us and to disturb what we're doing and to send the wrong impression, Madam Speaker. We will continue to look after the interests and the health of the people of Trinidad and Tobago as our colleagues continue to try to undermine it.
For Orpuch East.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, are you waiting for another 1,000 people to die before you inquire into the deaths of COVID victims in the health institutions?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I am not the one who told them not to take the vaccine because they are guinea pigs. I am inviting the entire population of Trinidad and Tobago to take the vaccine and save their lives.
For Naparima.
Is the Prime Minister stating that this government will not hold anyone accountable for the mismanagement of the vaccine acquisition in Trinidad and Tobago and leaving all of us exposed?
Prime Minister.
Speaker, if the member believes that by not using hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin and puncheon and rum is a mismanagement of the COVID-19, then so be it. If the member believes that by not using sunshine and, Madam Speaker, telling people not to take the vaccine, that's mismanagement, then he can do that. As far as we are concerned in Trinidad and Tobago, Madam Speaker, we are managing this situation as best we can, and the population does not share the view of the member for Naparima.
Member for Naparima.
Prime Minister, given that we have the worst performance in terms of vaccination and testing in the region beside Haiti, you are not holding anyone accountable for that situation, Prime Minister?
Madam Speaker, as soon as the member puts an element of truth before me, I will respond.
Member for Naparima.
In case the Prime Minister was in his fridge before where I spoke, so he doesn't understand. The question I ask is that, once again, Trinidad and Tobago will underperform, and there will be no transparency and accountability whatsoever under his government.
Madam Speaker, the view of the member for Naparima is usually at variance with the truth, and today is no different.
Member for Caroni Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of...
Member Sir.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could the Prime Minister identify the group of persons in national security who have received the 200 first shot of the Pfizer vaccines donated by the government of the United States?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, we have made vaccines available to the national security from the government sources and those particular 400 doses, and they have been used by members of the National Security Department. I'm not prepared to identify individuals who have received a particular vaccine. I did say to the country last Saturday that the 400 vaccines were offered to the National Security Department, and it was for use by the National Security Department, and it has so been used under the guidance of the Ministry of Health.
Member for Opuch East.
Thank you very much. Prime Minister, in light of the suspicious nature of the importation of these vaccines, are you willing to provide to the House at a later time the list of persons, it's a matter of public record already, who have received these vaccines?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I do not have that information, and if the member wants the names of who got it, then I'll ask the Ministry of Health whether they're prepared to do that, whether the patient record is available. I'll ask the Ministry of Health. But I also will tell the member there was no suspicious nature other than the suspicion that you tried to create.
Member for Cuba South.
Prime Minister, given this continued veil of secrecy in relation to these 80 vials of Pfizer vaccine, are you willing to provide a breakdown in terms of the classifications of persons within the National Security Intelligence Network that have received these vaccines?
Depending on what the answer to that question is, Madam Speaker, I may or may not. If it's a matter of national security, I will not.
Member for Opuch East. Member for Caroni Central.
Thank you. Can the Prime Minister indicate whether he was a recipient of this Pfizer vaccine?
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I wish that the members of the opposition would stop attempting to mislead the public with blatant lies and untruths. Madam Speaker, I have stated to this country before, unlike the other leader in this House, I told the country, unlike the other leader in this House, I told the country when I was diagnosed as a positive patient with COVID-19. I told the country when I was in isolation. I told the country when I can be vaccinated. The Minister of Health actually told the country the date on which I can be vaccinated. So to come here today and ask me if I took vaccine from the 400, you are just a mischief maker, and that is your pen. Go and find out from your leader when she took it and when she got COVID.
No, Prime Minister, that is all.
Member for Naparima. Prime Minister. Time is not up as yet. Naparima.
A simple question, yes or no, did you receive the vaccine, the Pfizer?
Madam Speaker, I would not dignify the member for Naparima, his out-of-place question with an answer. You are a stranger to the truth.
Those are 4 questions.